Warm welcome, dear women, to this week's episode of Conversations with a Career Doctor. This is your favorite podcast where we talk about all things career related with specific reference to women's careers. And we hope that this conversation with this week's career doctor will actually help you introspect about the health of your career, actually cure some of those niggling career ailments, and build a very strong career fundament. I have with me today an amazing career doctor, Aditi Shukla, Head of India Shared Services and Country Head India at AXA Excel. With that, let me now take this opportunity to welcome Aditi Shukla to Conversations with the Career Doctor. And Aditi, thank you so much for making it to our studios for today's episode.
Thank you so much, Dr. Soundarya. It is always a privilege to come and talk to you. So I was really very happy when I received your invitation and really happy to share my experiences with other women.
Thank you so much, Aditi. Aditi, let me just get the ball rolling by actually saying that you would be one of the few insurance professionals in this country who, apart from building a very strong and deep career in the BFSI space, has also risen to lead an organization, to actually occupy the C suite and be the boss, of your company. So I wanted to ask you, do you think insurance as an industry is something that's women friendly? Do you think that you kind of enjoyed the fact that you, cut your teeth in that kind of an industry and grew and learned? And did it contribute in some way to you being the kind of leader that you are?
Yes, well, it's such a beautiful question, Dr. Soundarya. And yes, I definitely think that insurance is an industry that women should really very, very seriously think of. You know why? Because I feel we women are almost naturally wired for insurance. If you think of us, our whole life is about assessing risks and taking decisions as to where we will be mitigating and diversifying risks and how do we move ahead, isn't it? I mean, all of
Very
us,
true.
unfortunately, the way the society is, the risk factors for women and the risk perception for women is always higher in any field you go. And to survive and thrive in that environment, I think women have developed a certain amount of sixth sense that helps them. But keeping that very philosophical note aside, I think insurance is definitely an industry that allows multiple of very promising careers for women, whether you are interested in the some of the core elements of being able to assess and underwrite risk, or you want to work with data analytics and actuaries, or work in the tech field and help build develop systems and tools that allows the insurance companies to risk assess and be in constant connect with their customers. I think the number of careers within an insurance company and the insurance sector as a whole are immense. And I literally stumbled into this industry, but I am really happy that that was the choice I made almost 23 years ago.
Fabulous. That is an intriguing statement. When you say that you stumbled upon insurance as a career. Now, I'm sure our listeners would be very interested to know how, this entire choice happened. I mean, were you actually planning to be something else? Were you looking at some other kind of career? If so, what attracted you into the insurance field?
So, Dr. Sandarya, I would rewind a little bit more to come to that statement. So, my dad is an electronics engineer. He was from IIT Kanpur, and growing up, I always wanted to be like him. And be an engineer. And of course, in the 90s, like any self-respecting student, I wanted to do computer science, because unless you were being an engineer or under computer science, you weren't really successful. So that was the hallmark of a great academic career, and I wanted that. But somehow it kind of changed, and at some point I decided that I was going to study accountancy, and I started towards preparing for my CA exams. And then during that period, during my articleship days, I worked with a lot of banks, and I was possibly thinking I was going to end up being with the banking industry, because even before I finished college, I already had, through my articleship and internship with a chartered accountancy firm, already had a lot of exposure to public sector banks, and that was what I thought I'll do it. But while I was appearing for my exams, and I did very well till I did, and I was just appearing for my last group. I had not cleared my last group in the first attempt, like every other thing I have done. It was a setback for me. I was sitting, preparing again, and suddenly this organization came in. It was a business process management company. Now, this was the start of the new century. The business process industry was just coming up, and this company came in, and they were looking for people to work in accountancy for a large American insurance company, a life insurance company. And I was licking my wounds at that point of time. I had just tasted failure for the first time in my life, and here was a chance to get out, possibly go see the world, before I came and did that. So that kind of made me just walk into that interview. They were conducting walk-in interviews, and I belong to Lucknow, and in a small town in Lucknow, almost 23, 24 years ago, having a company come in who would possibly give you a chance to go to US, it wasn't really going to come again, right? So I ended up giving that interview. I passed that interview. I decided I was going to start working and not wait for my CA exams. It was a reflex reaction, because I was trying to move ahead out of my failure. And yeah, I realized I was working in business process management industry for the insurance sector. From life and US market, I worked for UK and personal lines market, so home insurance and motor insurance. And then I stumbled on to, I would say, the greatest love of my life, AXA XL, working for large scale commercial PNC insurance. And I've been here for 20 years. So literally stumbled into the sector.
See, first of all, let me just compliment you on your amazing, candid sharing. Uh, Very vulnerable, speaking about your, the failure part and then emerging from that. I'm certain that, people who are listening to this podcast are going to really be inspired by the fact that, when you thought that it had all ended because your winning streak and
I
that
did.
ability with which you had, won every challenge, and that was put to test. And then when you did a pivot and you said, why don't I, catch this bull by its horns and kind of, go ahead. That was truly amazing. I just enjoyed the way you shared that. And to now, and also I must say this: when you called AXA Excel the love of your life, so I think that comes only when you identify with an organization with its values
Yes.
very strongly, and there is that congruence. Usually they say that women don't stay in organizations for too long
Yes,
unless there is that absolute value congruence. And
absolutely.
and then there are women who stay in organizations for decades, like you, who have actually created uh, that ability be to look at the organization as being more than just a job, more than just a career, but something that actually contributes to your own identity, Aditi.
Sure.
And even when you represented AXA Excel at the best companies, conversation which we had a few weeks ago, I could sense the passion that you had in talking about your organization, the pride that came out, where you said, we do all of these things. We do. So I want to ask you, has it always been this love? I mean, haven't you ever felt at some point of time, no, it's getting boring, or it's too much of the same thing? How have you dealt with those times?
Sure. And, 20 years is a very, very long time, Dr. Soundarya. So, if I were to say all 20 years were absolutely great, fantastic, I never had a dull moment, I think it's not going to be true, right? Like any journey, there have been times where I would feel that I would question, what am I doing next? Am I stagnating? And the reason I stayed is, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said value congruence. That absolute syncing of what my personal values are with what the organization values has been the reason that I have always continued to stay. And I have always had, I mean, I have stayed in the same organization, but I have always done very different things and roles. Even if I have been in the same role for, say, 3 to 5 years, what did in year one was so different to what I did in year three or year five. So that continuous learning momentum, that absolute syncing of the values was important. And I think there was one more thing that helped me. Uh, I think the reason I stayed so long was the organization showed an amazing nimbleness to be able to adapt to my life events. When I joined them, I was very young, unmarried. I literally got married, had my kid. Um, I mean, they were with me when my growth phase was on, both in the personal life, and I was also growing as a professional, learning things, taking bigger and bigger roles, and they were there with me. Then, when I had my kid, and there was a time where I deliberately, and this was a deliberate thought, that I needed more stability. And you could say there was a brief period of 2 to 3 years where I was stable. Um, I that time of, exponential growth was not there. I could take that, consolidate myself, my knowledge, my team, relook at working on having better processes rather than just keeping adding to portfolios. The organization was right behind me, helping me do that. And then again, that trajectory of growing started, and again I started, building up using that consolidation phase. And then there came a phase, I would say almost 6 years ago, from 6 to probably 3 years ago, where I have gone through a series of very, very devastating personal losses. And the reason the organization continued to stay with me and work with me while I kind of worked through those personal issues, to the fact that 2 years later, after probably uh, dealing with the biggest loss in my life, to this new position of leading the country, I think it's an amazing, amazing sinking of what you need from the organization and what it gives back to you.
That was just amazing listening to you, Aditi. And as you were speaking, I could sense the fact that the corpus of the organization, which means, what creates the body of the organization, which is its ethos, its values, the people, the people who actually take up those policies or those programs and translate them into actionable decisions which guide people like us. I think that's what just makes the difference for
Absolutely.
each one of us. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, and once again, I think you say it very beautifully. How do you build in the basic ethos, the basic empathy, the basic humanity each one of us has, and makes it and ensures that it is coming through your policies? And not only, sometimes, Dr. Soundarya, it's not what the policy states, it is how it is interpreted and implemented
Absolutely.
by every level of the organization. And that becomes very, very important to the experience any individual will have with the organization. So I would say that, I mean, while my own personal experience has been this, where I have kind of stayed on with an organization and worked, and we spoke about it just a moment ago, I would always encourage women to never settle for less. If they feel, if they feel that the investment they are making in that relationship with the organization is not being reciprocated back, they need to have step back and have a long, hard look and think as to what is best for them.
How beautifully put. Whenever we advise women, and I'm very consciously saying women, in the sense of career guidance and career coaching, we always tell them that the relationship with the organization has to be not just a give and take, which is what it is in many relationships, but one where there is multiple opportunity for you to learn.
Yeah.
So the organization has to give you a little bit more
Yes.
than you are giving it, because exactly to the point that you described about how, even if you were in a particular role for 5 years, what you did in year one and what you did in year five were vastly different, and you were constantly obtaining opportunities to learn. I think that is something that I feel women should focus on. Are you learning?
Are
Are you
you?
learning? Yeah, at
Absolutely.
every stage. But one of the things I want to ask you, Aditi, is obviously in a rich experience span of 2.5 decades, where you have really seen the insurance industry take root in India, become privatized. A lot of players enter into the country, and businesses grow, and all of that. Do you think that the way in which women engage with the insurance industry has changed? Do you think it was different at the time when you joined, and is it something else now? What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely. I see more and more women in uh, leadership roles now, leading significant teams. Um, I recently had the privilege of meeting uh, a fellow woman leader leading a large technology team for a US based insurer. I have had multiple interactions with women leaders leading various functions in insurance sectors. I think beginning of the century when I started my career, I did not see that many women there. Even in my own organizations, when I look around, the number of women leading significant roles has uh, uh, changed, has multiplied. Now, part of it is organic because, yes, a lot of us started 20, 25 years ago. I think we were the generation, Dr. Soundarya, that did not have some of the the social constructs and bindings that maybe our mothers or grandmothers had, right? So I think we were probably the first generation in independent India who could literally go and work and showcase our potential and not have as many constraints as I think the previous two generations or three generations had. So I definitely see that changing. And like I said before, I feel that the sheer number of opportunities and the wide variety of opportunities insurance sector gives you. If you are a people person, there are just so many roles where you can interact with customers, with stakeholders. If you are a tech person, go ahead and do tech led roles. If you like data and numbers, you can just immerse yourself in any amount of data and numbers. So depending on as to what your flair is, if you like psychology and you like forensic studies, there are very very specialized fields in claims handling or fraud detection that you can work on. So the sheer number of multiple roles available depending on what your field of study and interest is has grown. And I see women leading very very significant teams now all over, not only in India but
Good.
all over the world. So
All over the world.
yes, I definitely see this changing.
Super. Women, are you listening to Aditi? Here's an open invitation to all of you. And nobody could put it better than the boss lady herself when she says that there are multiple types of roles available for multiple types of different skill sets that you may bring to the table. If you're a people's person, if you're a tech geek, if you're a data nerd, if you are somebody that loves forensics, somebody that loves even the interesting part of actually dissecting something as to how did this happen and going behind it. I think there's a job for anybody who's interested in any of these sciences. So thank you so much, Aditi, for that. And I really hope that the women at myavatar.com, which is our huge community of women who are registered on this portal, which is India's first and only diversity portal. I really hope that they all decide to apply, also put in their skills and their focus in trying to understand this industry better and actually become part of it. Now, my next question to you, along the same lines is this. Um, and I'm going to again go back to the fact that you're one of the pioneering leaders in this industry. Today's women, whether you look at the Gen Z woman professional who's probably 21, 22, and she's kind of, just getting into the workplace, or you take the millennial who's probably in her late 20s, early 30s, and probably going over to her mid 30s. Now, these two generational cohorts, they actually look at insurance in a very different way as compared to how we would look at insurance. And to us, especially those of us who've had, that archetypal LIC agent who would come, to all our homes and, talk to us and actually be kind of an extended family member, to how the insurance industry has today really diversified, become so different, become very professional, become very tech driven. Um, from a millennial woman's standpoint or from a Gen Z woman's standpoint, do you think this is an industry that offers gigs? Do you think this is an industry that would permit a lot of flexible working? What's your stand
Absolutely.
on this?
Absolutely. I feel that uh, you can get a lot of flexible working depending on the roles. So I there will be some roles which require
Yeah,
a lot of customer interactions,
absolutely.
and this even there flexible working depending on the hours you want is possible. But if you need flexible working. Like I said, there is just so much. For example, if you are into analytics, you can do that any time of the day you want, anywhere in the world you want, depending on the local rules and regulations as of your employment. But you can do that, right? It allows you to choose, I would say, the pace at which you need to work in certain cases, because uh, in insurance, it's a long cycle in many of the things. So there is also some flexibility in certain roles that you have about the pace of working. Not everything, I'm not saying, I mean, if you are a finance professional, there are certain returns that need to go on certain dates or this, but there is still a certain amount of flexibility to, also choose the pace of your working, when you are working, from where you are working. I think flexibility is inbuilt. Honestly, Dr. Soundarya, in my own organization, I today have uh, more women than men in many of my teams. And I think the reason is the sheer amount of flexibility we offer and those roles offer. And because now we have become so tech led, the need for doing things real time in person has reduced greatly. So
Mm,
even that has led to a lot of flexibility. We definitely want people to come in, work together as a team, collaborate,
yeah.
but that aside, I think the amount of flexibility you have to be able to do the role you want to do is immense. The days of the agents, I think, yeah, is gone. I mean, though I am in a large PNC setup and we don't really use agents, but I can tell you, even the agents have become much more tech savvy than what we remember
Yes.
the old days.
Before. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Aditi, as I reflect on your career and the vulnerability that you demonstrated some time back when you said that the organization stayed with you during tough times and supported you, I wanted you to share with our listeners, our viewers, what do you think should be a couple of career strategies that women should use? Because tough times are going to always be a
Always
part of our
come in.
life,
Always.
and they will hit you like a curveball when you least expect it. And unless we have a very robust and strong career strategy, it is very easy for women to give up the one thing
That
that's going to be of greatest use to them, which is their career identity. Right.
absolutely.
So I just wanted you to share about that,
I
Aditi.
think one of the advice that I always give women is, uh, don't take a decision that is going to impact way beyond 6 months from the
Mm.
reality of today. I think that is the one mistake we all women make, right? My child is so small, they need nurturing and caring. I'm going to drop my career. The reality that your child needs you today will change in 3 to 5 years time, or the amount of the time you need to invest with your child.
Yeah.
And we have seen, Dr. Sandra, you do such amazing work in getting women back and in second career. But a lot of women, I'm sure you would have met, have expressed their regret that they left something good and great, and now they are struggling to, get back to where they left it at, right? So I always advise women, the first thing is, if there is a tough time,
Mm.
look for short term strategies. Do not take a long term decision based on what is the reality of today. When I went through the darkest period of my life, I remember very clearly telling myself that I will not take any decision which was more than a week in its impact. How will I survive this week? in certain cases, I would have to make a decision, how will I survive this day? Who should I call to get support for today? What are the changes I need to make this week to my schedule to be able to, fulfill my personal commitments, my duties as a mother, and my household responsibilities, and yet be able to do a job? At no point did I take a decision like, I am not going to do this role. This is too heavy for me. Or I never made a decision like, I'm never going to travel again. Nothing like that. It was simply as to what I need to do today or this week to be able to get my professional commitments done while keeping my personal responsibilities in. So I literally, sometimes people say 1 hour at a time, one decision at a time. I literally had to go through that because things started changing. In 3 to 6 months' time, my a new support system started cropping up. Yes, I was vocal. I went and I asked for help. I asked for help wherever I needed to. In certain cases, I paid for that help. In certain cases, I requested for it and I got it. And I was very okay with showing my vulnerability, but being very, very okay with the fact that I wanted to preserve my career and yet be able to take care of my personal responsibilities. I was very clear in my head that this is not the time to get guilt ridden and pull yourself into that debt, or into that trap of either this or that. I need to survive today and I'll think about tomorrow. And that is how I think I lived through the most difficult times. And yes, the reality of today is very different than what it was 4 years ago. My child has grown up, has become a much more independent child because we both went through that experience together. I have a very different support system now, unconventional, but I decided to trust people and my gut and get that help, instead of always trying to fall back into the age old, this of okay, in this case I have to live with the family or I have to do this. So I think, my advice to women is, please do not take long term decisions based on the reality of today. Please do not take a decision when you are emotionally very, very disturbed and upset. Uh, Please, before you take a decision, talk to as many people as possible, knock as many doors as you can, and you will get help. There will be people you will expect help from and will not come in, but you will be surprised as to the places and the directions you will get help from. Uh, should you just be open and accepting of it? So, yes, that is my advice, Dr. Saundarya. And please, the last thing, do not try playing a superwoman. It is fine. It is fine that things will not be perfect on certain days. It is fine. Either you will have a bad day at home or a bad day at office. It does not make you a terrible person. You will get better.
Thank you, Aditi. I was just hanging on to every word that came from you because I think it comes from a place, first of all, of lived experience, genuine, authentic lived experience, which you are so generous in sharing with all of us. And I think it also comes from having seen the devil and, beaten it and saying that, I'm now back and I'm, going to show the world who I am. And I think that's just gorgeous and very, very inspiring. What is your mechanism for renewal? How do you renew yourself?
I have a very unglamorous way of renewing. I vegetate. I have periods, not usually more than half a day, of doing nothing. absolutely nothing. And in that period of doing absolutely nothing, I'm usually thinking, because if you're going to lie around and just lounge around, what are you going to do? And that sometimes helps me, um, clear the cobwebs of my mind. And then when get new ideas and I'm really regenerated, I go and I tinker in my garden. And when you will see me, very vigorously weeding my pots, you will understand I have vegetated. There is a new idea coming in that now I am, trying to develop. And for that, I need to actively weed, because then my creative juices are really, really flowing. Right. So uh, I'm a textbook definition introvert. I gain energy by being myself, and I give myself that time to rejuvenate. And again, I think having that self awareness as to what is truly going to help you is important. Again, there was a time, especially, about 2 years, still about 2 years ago, where to move away from my thoughts, from the grief I was handling at that point of time, I would deliberately fill my day with activities and things, and I started realizing that it was not helping me. It was making me more tired, more stressed. It was not doing it. And then I realized that the only thing that helps me is this brief periods of doing nothing, being with myself, being with my own thoughts, usually end the day getting an idea and then developing it. And I think it has been only 2 years, Dr. Soundarya, that I have become okay with it. I don't have guilt that I wasted 3 4 hours doing nothing. And this has helped me rejuvenate. So I think that's the beauty uh, of reaching a certain age, when you start becoming okay with who you are. So yes.
I think that that confidence and the beauty of self acceptance comes through very very nicely when you share like this, Aditi. I think we are almost at the end of our conversation, although I mean, what can I say, this has been so nice and so generous of you to share such a lot. I'm just going to ask one more question before we go into the rapid fire round, and I have some 5 or 6 questions for your rapid fire round.
Oh my God.
um,
Please be easy on me.
No, no, knowing you, you're just going to ace all of them. Um, the one question I want to ask you, especially as a leader, and also because we have been so fortunate to have you here and have you be so giving about your experience and just sharing so with very little boundaries. So for that, I'm going to now ask you another question. Women face gender bias all the time, and while they say leadership does not have a gender, and that, it's about being in the hot seat and taking those decisions because the buck stops here. The fact of the matter is that women do have it tough because there is still a lot of learning to be done by this world. I wanted to ask you, how have you dealt with gender bias and what's your advice to women who deal with biases?
I would say I definitely dealt, if not a bias, I would say that toxic mindset, which kind of, bracketed women as to what they or they could not do. At the beginning of my careers, some of the early organizations I would say I worked with, I did feel there was definitely unsaid word about the kind of roles women could or could not do. And you know and a lot of it would not come out in express statements or policies, but in the unsaid things, or the casual informal sentences that would be thrown your way. I think the good thing that has happened since then, Dr. Soundarya, is I think the young me, still in my early 20s, did not even understand that this is bias. I did feel a sense of extreme discomfort, but I could not really always point my finger and say this is gender biasness or this passive aggressiveness is stemming from these biasnesses. I think today's generation, and thankfully, because now to organizations like Aftar who have brought this conversation out in the open, I think at least the young women of today are much more aware that this is something wrong. This is something that needs to be called out. This is a behavior that is not acceptable. My own way of dealing with it is the earlier part of my career, I would say that there have been times where I have, gone back in a shell because I just, like I said, I could understand that this was something I was not comfortable with, but the conversations and the society had not evolved so much that I could articulate what I was feeling. And at least I remember that young people like me at that point of time would retrieve in a shell. Uh, but the only way I could deal with it was ensuring that I was taking up positions that helped me, uh, be in a better position to handle it. I also remember I would be pretty assertive in my earlier days, uh, because I had this, almost this emotional um, baggage of something wrong is happening and I'm the one, I'm trying to save the world, right? Because I'm literally trying to be a spokesperson of a cause that I could not myself understand. And I believe that gradually I realized that sometimes the best action is to shut up and show it is possible. So instead of having those long discussions and discourses, I started coming up with a living, breathing proof of concept saying, you know what? I have already done this. Look, this works. Look, this concept works. Look, this pilot gives you this result. So instead of having that constant argument as to what is possible, who can do it, who cannot do it, why this has to be done this way, why what I feel is right, why you come and validate my thoughts, I started presenting hard evidences of how this could be done.
Wow.
And gradually, I realized that as I could move ahead and do this more, the arguments changed because then they became arguments more about how do we make this idea better, what do we need more here, what are the solutions that need to be tweaked, which was something much more easy to deal with than hypothetical statements and biases. Because what are biases? Just hypothesis about what is possible, what is not possible, uh, who has the skill set, who does not have the skill set, who can work in the night, who cannot work in the night. I mean, you were just changing. And and gradually I feel that at least all the women who were around me or whoever I had a chance to interact, I think they all kind of latched onto it. And I see that at least now, at least if I am in a room, I don't see any conversation starting with those hypotheses because they have been my pet peeves, and I have used the last 20 years trying to break them. That this is not done. Let's talk on facts.
Actions speak louder than words is
Absolutely.
the and you made sure that whatever you brought to the table, whatever you created, that took over the pole position
Absolutely. Absolutely.
from whatever bias, whatever small little petty biases that people around you could have. I think that's
Absolutely.
very warrior like, and I absolutely love it. Okay, so we are now reaching the rapid fire round. My first question to you: what is your greatest strength?
Resilience.
Yeah, no prizes for guessing. Your greatest role model and why?
My mother, simply because if I have gone through X, she has gone through 2X. and she has been the one who kind of showed me the way to be when I literally thought that everything I know has come crashing down. So my mother.
Lovely. Big pranams to her. Social media, yes or no?
Yes, because there are a lot of benefits that come out of social media. We all do talk about the harms of it, but I feel the quality of conversations has changed because of social media. The pace of change has become much more because of social media. Not all of it is good, but let's not throw the baby with the bathwater, as they
Bathwater.
say.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, well, you have kind of answered this next question a little bit before, but still, I want to ask you your biggest stress buster.
Other than the vegetating things, gardening, of course. I mean, the plants, I am always happy near plants.
Fantastic. Lovely. Your most used app.
My most used app, um, other than the quick commerce of so other than the quick commerce ones, I would say uh, Instagram.
Insta. Lovely. Yes. Super. So that kind of, brings it to a close. It's a wrap on this podcast. And Aditi, may I compliment you genuinely on being an amazingly authentic leader, someone who just shared with totally no boundaries and no restriction. You gave all of those learnings and those experiences, and on behalf of the the women at my avatar and the community of women who seek role models and inspiration, I offer you my thanks.
Thank
It
you
was
so much,
wonderful
Sandhya.
having you. Thank you.
It was amazing talking to you.
Thank you so much. Dear viewers, I hope you enjoyed this week's very special conversation with our career doctor, Aditi Shukla, Head of India Shared Services and Country Head, India at AXA Excel. Aditi shared with us some beautiful truths about not just building a long standing career, but also about being who you are and just accepting everything that life gives you with the same sense of grace, thanks, and generosity, and giving it, the kind of attention and energy that takes you to the next level. Thank you so much, Aditi. And ladies, I hope you continue to build on your careers. And here's wishing you wonderful careers filled with discovery and delight. Thank you.